You have questions?
What is slashing?
We have answers.
Slashing is, like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. And, there's a penalty for that?
Yeah. You do that, you go to the box, 2 minutes by yourself, and you feel shame, and then you get free.
This is CBJ in 30.
Anything you folks want to know about the fascinating world of pro hockey, here we go.
Tweet your questions by using the hashtag CBJIN30.
We'd like to remind you folks, keep your questions within the boundaries of good taste.
Here's your host, Bob McGilligan.
And welcome to another edition of CBJ in 30, coming to you live from Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan. Today, the Blue Jackets set to take on the Detroit Red Wings tonight. It'll be the last time this season that these two teams are going to go head-to-head. Again, two teams in different directions. The Blue Jackets out of the playoff race. The Detroit Red Wings, a team that's very much in the playoff race right now. They sit third in the Atlantic Division. They trail the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens. They're hoping to be able to pick up enough points that they could better their position. But all in all, they're not in a bad spot right now, knowing that they're going to the postseason. They've done that for 20-plus years. So that's Detroit Red Wings hockey. But the Blue Jackets have played very well in recent years here in this building. They've done a good job against the Detroit Red Wings, and that's something they'll try to continue to do here tonight in this game and try to get themselves a win, try to make it back-to-back wins on the road before returning to Nationwide Arena, where they have to play a game tomorrow against the Edmonton Oilers. All right, so let's get into a couple of things here. First of all, let's start in talking about this game. A little bit of concern, maybe more than a little bit of concern about the guys that have been ill the last couple of days. Nick Foligno was unable to play on Tuesday night in Carolina because he was sick. He got sick right before the game. He didn't play after the game. Brandon Dubinsky, Artem Anisimov, both feeling similar effects of an illness, so they've been battling that. It was an optional skate yesterday, so we'll have to wait and see when the Blue Jackets hit the ice here today who's skating, who's not skating. That'll give us more of an indication of who's going to be able to play and who's not going to be able to play. Luke Adam got a chance to debut as a Blue Jacket on Tuesday night because of that Nick Foligno illness. He played on the fourth line with Mark Letestu and Jared Boll. That allowed Corey Tropp to move up to the third line in that game on Tuesday night. But hopefully everybody's going to be healthy, ready to go, and again, we'll see when it gets to that point, but let's be honest. You get Nick Foligno out of the lineup, that's already, that's hamstringing you right there, not having him in the lineup. And then if you had to lose guys like Brandon Dubinsky and Artem Anisimov, those are key cogs in the wheel. And we know that because we've seen it most of the year. We've been without those two guys for long stretches of time. The Blue Jackets do not want to be doing that against the Detroit Red Wings here tonight. Well, last night, on our radio show that Jody Shelley and I do, The Inside Edge, we had a chance to catch up and talk for a long time with the head coach of the Detroit Red Wings, Mike Babcock. Now, you look at Mike and you see him on TV, you see his demeanor on the bench, you hardly ever see him smile. He looks like the meanest guy on the planet. But he gave us some great insight yesterday, not only just on the Detroit Red Wings and the team that he has right now, the way that team's playing, the organizational philosophy, but just great insight on the game and on life in the game, to be honest with you. But some key things that he said yesterday, I asked him flat out, are you happy with the way that your team is playing right now? And he said no, he's not. He feels that they can and they need to play better right now. And he said people will talk about February being kind of the dog days of the NHL season. He feels that it is right now. And you can understand why he feels that way. As I said, his team is in third place. They're hoping to move up and get into second place in the Atlantic Division, trying to better their playoff spot. But right now, once you get to under 20 games remaining, for the teams that are going to be making the playoffs, you get under 20 games, yeah, you want to be in a better spot if you can, but the focus starts to automatically shift to the postseason. And how do we get through these last 15 games? How do we get through these last 12 games? It's not that those games aren't important, but if you know that you're in, not if you're battling. Like last year, the Blue Jackets were battling just to try to get in at the very end, so they didn't lose any focus. But when you know that you're in, it gets tough sometimes because you just want to get there. You just want to move on. You want to get to the playoffs because, that's what you've played the entire season for. So Mike Babcock feels that these are really the dog days when you get underneath 20 games, and he's trying to really motivate his club to get moving. This club is one that was just on a trip out west They beat Edmonton their last time out. They took a day off on Monday. They came back to the ice yesterday for a practice. So they're going to be rested and ready to go against the Blue Jackets tonight. There's no question about that. And one thing about Mike Babcock is, to me, I mean, this guy, he's a certified pro. He's a Stanley Cup winner. He's won gold medals with Team Canada. You know, he knows how to push the right buttons and when to push the right buttons. But the interesting thing about this Detroit team is because it's so steeped in history, because there's so much history here. There are so many legends of the game that still are around the franchise. And he's got good veteran players that have been here for a long time. In fact, I said to him, I said, is it an advantage for you that you've been with this group for a long time, so you kind of know them inside and out, and you know what to do to get them going? And he said, well, that's not really true. I haven't been with this group a long time. I've been with a couple of guys a long time, but we have a lot of young players here. And that's a very fair assessment. Guys like Gustav Nyquist and Thomas Tatar and Thomas Yurko, these guys are, they're young players. They've only been around for a year or two. So he doesn't have that. They're not Nick Lidstrom, put it that way. But he does have Pavel Datsyuk. He does have Henrik Zetterberg. He does have Nicholas Kronwall, who kind of just, they police a lot of the things because they set the standard. Any young player coming into the dressing room for the Detroit Red Wings knows what is expected of them. And all they have to do is watch those three guys and the way they carry themselves. And there's no question as to what you're supposed to do and what you need to do. It's as simple as that. So tonight, the guys like Zetterberg, Datsyuk, Kronwall, they'll have their team ready to play against the Blue Jackets here this evening, especially if they feel that their team is in a lull right now. They feel that their team needs to, step it up at some point. They're going to make sure that their young teammates are ready for that this evening. Detroit, you want to stay out of the box tonight. We talk about it every game, but tonight they're the tops in the league. You want to stay out of the penalty box. And it was interesting. Jody Shelley asked Mike Babcock yesterday about having toughness on his team. And he said, hey, look, I would love it. He said, when I coached junior hockey in Spokane, our goal was to run somebody through the Zamboni doors every game. But you can't do that now. The game has changed. It's bigger, it's faster, and you have to be able to keep up and you have to be able to skate. So if that means not having some toughness, then so be it. He said where the toughness for the Detroit Red Wings lies is team toughness. And you know what? That's one of those terms that might make you cringe a little bit. But for this team, it really is. But I thought the other interesting thing that he said is the real way that they counter that is by having a great power play. Because he said the intimidation factor is there from that. Because if you make a mistake, we're going to beat the crap out of you on the power play. And that was the quote. And it's dead on. So the Blue Jackets have got to stay out of the penalty box in this game tonight. Simple as that. And they've got to find a way to stay out of the penalty box, play 5-on-5. Or if they can get the Detroit Red Wings into some penalties, as we saw on Tuesday night, that works out pretty well. The Blue Jackets scored 3 times on the power play against the Carolina Hurricanes to win that game the other night in a shootout. And Mike Babcock addressed that with the media yesterday, too. He said, look, we've got to stay out of the penalty box because this team is good when they get on the power play. So special teams could be a factor tonight as to who gets the power plays. If it's the Red Wings, could be trouble for the Blue Jackets, and vice versa if the opposite situation happens to be true. So it should be a good one tonight. It has been in the last 2 years between these teams because, in my opinion, the Blue Jackets seem to have that belief now that they can beat this Detroit Red Wings team. And I don't know that they had that before. Look, I got here 6 years ago, and it was right after the Blue Jackets had played the Detroit Red Wings in the playoffs and had been swept in a 4-game series. And I never got the sense that the Blue Jackets team that was coming to play against the Red Wings felt that they were really going to be completely into the game, that they could complete the game, that they could do. As soon as something would go wrong, you could see them kind of, uh-oh, here we go again type of thing. So that was one situation. I don't see that anymore with this group. I see just a hard fighting group that's going to keep on going and powering and do whatever they have to do the entire time to get the desired result. Not just in this game, but really in any game. I shouldn't say in any game because there have been some stinkers lately, but you know what I mean. You understand what I'm saying to you. They're going to come in. This is one of those teams, as I talk about all the time. There are some games that you don't have to motivate for. Some games you don't have to get up for. It's just the opponent that you're playing, and you should be set to go. The Detroit Red Wings are definitely one of those teams. I saw today, Aaron Portzline in the Columbus Dispatch had quoted Sergei Bobrovsky talking about when he was young and he was trying to follow the NHL in his small Russian town where they got one 30-minute highlight show a week. And he knew of the Detroit Red Wings, who had 5 Russians that were playing on the team and were having great success winning Stanley Cups. So that resonates with him. So this has always been a special franchise for him. And it's special for him to come here to the Joe and play against the Detroit Red Wings. Those kind of things factor in games like this for a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky, who is going to want to be at peak performance in a game against a team like the Detroit Red Wings. No question about that. Leads me to my next subject here, Sergei Bobrovsky. And this also I was reading this morning, and I don't understand why it's hanging around. I don't understand why it's an issue whatsoever. But it goes back to Bobrovsky throwing his stick after the third goal was scored by the Carolina Hurricanes in the first period the other night. Look, I don't get this. I don't understand why it is such a big deal. He never does that. He wasn't really trying to show up Dalton Prout. He was just ticked off. He was really ticked off. And he let it be known. Now, is it the right thing to do? See, I, for one, because I'm seeing where all these people are saying, well, you really don't want to see this on the ice. And I really didn't have a problem with it. And I still today don't have a problem with it. If it's something that happens all the time, then it is a problem. Now it's a hothead goalie that, you've got to rein in. It's not the case with Sergei Bobrovsky. It's a top-tier goaltender who was ticked off in a moment. And he was tired of giving up the same goal over and over because he couldn't see it. So I really didn't have any problem with what he did. I today don't have any problem with what he did. And the stories about it, I could care less about, to be honest with you. He and Dalton Prout have no problem. We talked with Dalton yesterday about the whole thing, and he talked about what happened. There's a broken play in the neutral zone. Now he's trying to pick up a guy, and he's scrambling and making sure that everybody's covered. And Ryan Murphy comes off the bench, and he says, I've got my guy. I'm posted with him. And all of a sudden, Murphy takes the shot, and it hits off Eric Stahl, and it winds up in the net. And he said, I'm looking around for the puck. I couldn't believe it was in the net. And he knew that Sergei was upset with him for being in his way. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't what he was trying to do whatsoever. It was a scramble. And scrambles happen. So, for Bobrovsky, I'm reading today where Todd Richards is saying, yes, we talked about it, and if it would have to happen a second time for me to even talk about, to be honest with you, about the stick thing. Now, you want to talk about the play and where were you and why were you there and all this and that. I understand all of that part of it. But as far as the actual tossing of the stick out of frustration, to me, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I don't get it. I really don't. In fact, let's go to Twitter right now, at Bobby Mac Sports. Z Burns said it existed enough that there had to be that the incident existed enough that there had to be a coaches Prout Bobrovsky only meeting, to be honest with you. No, I will bet you. Yes, he said they met about it. And I don't know what they talked about, but I would bet you it's what I just said. It was about the play and how it developed and why everybody was where they were and why they weren't where they were supposed to be. That would be my bet. Not about the stick thing. I really believe that. I stand by that. But I just think it's being overblown. I just think there's so little to talk about right now that this is something that all of a sudden everybody's talking about. Why? For what? It's not a big deal. Relax. It's not going to happen again tonight, I'll tell you that. So, I don't know. That just kind of sticks in my craw, I guess, a little bit, because I want that guy to be frustrated. And again, I don't want him to throw his stick 72 times a year. But if he's mad, if he's upset, he's an emotional guy. You don't really realize by watching him play how emotional he is. And he comes across with this really calm demeanor. But trust me, sometimes those are the most fiery competitors. And Sergei Bobrovsky is one of them. And for him to do that, and look what it did, by the way. You think everybody on the ice and on the bench didn't go, oh boy, things are bad if Bob's that upset. And you can argue that it rallied them. For sure, you can make that argument. They came back and they won the game. So, did it wind up being a good thing in hindsight? Probably. Would you do it every day? No. Will he do it every day? No. Will he be upset again? Yes. Will you know it? More than likely not. More than likely not. So anyway, that's where I am on the Sergei Bobrovsky, Dalton Prout, Todd Richards meeting. Gone. Yesterday's news. Don't care. But I think it's good for him to show that emotion, for him to show that he cared, for him to show that he was ticked. It's okay. And he has earned that right, by the way. Of all people on this team, Sergei Bobrovsky has earned that right. How many times has he been hung out to dry over the course of the last 3 years? How many times has he not reacted like that? How many times does he have to be going crazy in his head because he's trying to put out fires that shouldn't exist? So for that one time, that one show of passion, I have no issue with that at all. At all. Again, if he did it all the time, that would be a problem. If he was giving up goals and slamming his stick against the goalpost every time, I would have a problem. If he was making it obvious that he was upset with his teammates and he was basically blaming them on an every goal, every night basis on the ice, I would have a problem with that. In fact, if I were in charge and I had a goalie like that, I'd probably look to deal him. Because you can't do that. You can't show up your teammates all the time. That's not what this is. That's not what it was. It was one moment of a lot of pent-up frustration for a guy that wants to win, for a guy that wants to be in the playoffs, for a guy that missed months of service this year because of injuries and couldn't do anything about it. That frustration builds and builds and builds. And it came out like that. Big deal. It's over and move on. Dennis Kelly II says, with Anisimov and Dubinsky infected with the Foligno zombie virus, should they breathe on or bite the other team to win? Well, I'll just go with the breathe on because the biting thing would be pretty obvious. The breathing thing you can get away with without a penalty and or suspension. So I would go with just the breathing on to try to do that. Now, the problem with the Detroit Red Wings is a lot of these forwards, you've got to catch them before you can breathe on them because they're quick. And that's your challenge, catching them and staying with them. There's some great stories yesterday at practice. You know, some days, practice days on the road are the best days because they're relaxed and they're kind of low-key and, you know, guys are at the rink early and they're hanging out. And we were just down on the bench yesterday and some guys are telling some great stories. Dalton Prout was telling a story about coming to this rink because he's from Windsor, right across the river. And he was telling stories about coming to this rink when he was a kid and how he remembered one time the Red Wings were playing against the St. Louis Blues and how he went down during warm-ups. He was down by the glass and he went to the corner in the Red Wings end and then he went down to the other end in the Blues end and was watching the warm-ups and how exciting it was as a kid to be that close to the ice and see all the players right up close like that. And now he is one of those players. I mean, who knows? There might be a young kid tonight that's down there by the glass that's watching him during warm-ups. Very well could be. There could be one from close by, knowing that this is somebody that made it. This is somebody that is playing in the NHL, that found his way. And you know, maybe somebody's going to be looking up to him tonight in this very building. You never know. It can happen. He also said that he remembered his dad bought him tickets. What did he say? It was grade 10 he was in, and his dad surprised him with tickets to a game when Pittsburgh was in town, and he was sitting right behind a goal when Sidney Crosby was in town, and how great a memory that is for him. And you know, he'll never forget it, the surprise of coming to the game and then playing Sidney Crosby playing against the Red Wings. And now it's Dalton Prout that is out playing against both Sidney Crosby and the Red Wings on any given night. So it's great stories. Those are great things. Jody Shelley was telling stories. He told this one on the radio show last night about how Chris Chelios used to exploit him in this building and how when he would get the puck inside of his own end, he would think that he would just chip it off the glass, and he would look and Chelios would be starting to move as though he was going to pinch in and bear down on him. And so Jody said that he would panic and he would quickly try to chip the puck and get it out of the zone, and That would be just to find out that Chelios had faked the pinch and was sitting back at the blue line waiting for that puck and would settle it on his stick, skate it along the line, and throw it toward the net. Jody said that happened to him all the time. And his quote also was, things happen fast at the Joe. Things happen quickly. They develop fast here at the Joe. Jack Johnson was telling a story about Pavel Datsyuk. He says it seems like every time he plays here, he's getting the puck, and he said one time in particular, he said, I was going behind the net, and I knew he was behind me. I knew he was back there somewhere. And my legs were churning, my feet were going as fast as I could, and I can see the blade of his stick starting to come up alongside of me. And I know he's gaining on me. And I'm just trying to get the thing out of the zone before I cough it up to him. And Mark Letestu was standing there and quickly added, yeah, he is so good at stripping you of the puck. So those are the kind of things that go on the practice day. Guys just sitting around talking about stories. So there are some great ones in this building. And, you know, when this building is gone, that's going to be good for a lot of reasons, you know, like the aesthetics of the place. But it'll be sad, too, because there's so much history here at the Joe, and so many great players have played in this building on both sides. And so many great things have happened here. So it was fun just to sit around and kind of chill out, hang out yesterday as the players had their optional skate in getting ready for this game here today. So, again, this one getting underway at 7 o'clock tonight, and the Blue Jackets getting back into a back-to-back situation. As a matter of fact, not only a back-to-back, but now this is the first of 3 games in 4 days. And, well, not even 4 full days, to be honest with you, because the Sunday game is a 5 o'clock game. So 7 o'clock tonight here, 7 o'clock tomorrow at home against the Edmonton Oilers, and then at home on Sunday at 5 o'clock against the Carolina Hurricanes. So it's going to be a trying weekend for the Blue Jackets. There's no doubt about that. And, you know, it could determine a decent amount where they finish at the end of the year, the way they play this weekend. I think that's fair to say. And, you know, they were able to stay ahead of Carolina with that win the other night. Carolina will be coming in looking to get those points back on Sunday at Nationwide Arena. The Red Wings looking to improve their playoff position. The Edmonton Oilers really don't have anything to play for. But to be honest with you, the Oilers seem to play well against the Blue Jackets. And I'm not sure why that is, especially in Edmonton, where the Blue Jackets have to go next Tuesday. But you never know at this time of the year, and especially playing this many games in a short period of time. Anything can happen. You've got to be ready to go every day. You've got to be on top of your game, and that's what the Blue Jackets expect out of themselves here tonight. They expect to be ready to play against this Detroit team because Detroit's going to bring it. You know, they are going to bring it. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And when you look at, again, where they are in the standings, what they're hoping to do, all of those things, they need this game tonight. They see this as a golden opportunity. I mean, the Detroit Red Wings are a team that looks at home games like a bar of gold. That's how valuable it is to them. These 2 points on home ice, they expect to get them. They not just want to get them, they do expect to get them. They expect to play well in this building. They expect to get their points here, and they expect to, at the end of the night, be where they want to be, smiling and happy, and have those points in hand. That's what they expect, and with those expectations, you know, you've got to be on top of your game and ready to go if you want to beat this club tonight. And that's the challenge that the Blue Jackets face here this evening as they get ready to take on the Detroit Red Wings. So, again, it should be a good one. It has been the last couple of years when these two teams have gotten together. It's, you know, it's been good. It's been fun. And hopefully that continues tonight as the Blue Jackets get set to face these Red Wings. 7 o'clock is game time. I've got the call for you on the Blue Jackets radio network to find out who's healthy and who's sick and who's going to play. It's all coming up. Talk to you tonight.